In 1963, Malcolm X stood in a Detroit church and described two kinds of enslaved people. The one in the field, who caught hell, worked sunup to sundown, ate the scraps, and prayed for the master's house to burn down. And the one in the house, who ate a little better, dressed a little better, lived close to power, and loved that master so much that if the house caught fire, he'd grab the bucket before the master did. Then Malcolm said the thing that should stop you cold, that same mind still exists today. It just got a new wardrobe. Some of the loudest voices in our community right now, Malcolm already told you exactly who they are 60 years ago. Let me decode this for you. Welcome back to Cypher with MLK, where we break down the history they left out of your textbooks and show you why it isn't history at all. Today we're talking about the most dangerous idea Malcolm X ever handed us. Not the guns, not by any means necessary, the psychology. One distinction that explains more about black politics in 2026 than any cable news panel ever will. The House Negro and the Field Negro. And let me be clear, before we go one sentence further, this is going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to name a name, because Malcolm named names and watering him down is its own kind of betrayal. November 10th, 1963, King Solomon Baptist Church, Detroit, Michigan. The speech is called Message to the Grassroots. Malcolm is 38 years old, still the national spokesman for the Nation of Islam, still at the height of his rhetorical power, and he does something no politician would dare. He tells that room that slavery produced two kinds of people, and that both kinds are still walking around.
There was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro.
The field Negro was the masses. Most of the enslaved lived and died in that field, beaten from morning till night in a shack in cast-off clothes. And Malcolm's point is that the field Negro had clarity, no illusions about his condition. He knew exactly whose interest that plantation served, and it wasn't his.
When the house caught on fire, he didn't try and put it out. That field Negro prayed for a wind, for a breeze. When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he died.
The house Negro was different. He lived close to the master, in the attic, in the basement, but inside. He ate better. He wore the master's old clothes. And because his little bit of comfort came directly from proximity to power, he came to identify with that power completely.
The house Negro, if the master said, "We got a good house here," the house Negro said, "Yeah, we got a good house here." Whenever the master said "we," he said "we."
There it is. The master says we have a good house, and the house Negro says we have a good house. Their interests have fused in his mind so completely that he can no longer tell them apart.
He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself.
Sit with that sentence. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. That is not loyalty. That is a man who has disappeared into somebody else's interest. So when the field Negro shows up talking about leaving, about freedom, about separation, the house Negro is the first one to shut him down.
Let's separate. That house Negro would look at you and say, "Man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this?"
And that is the part that matters. The house Negro doesn't just serve the system. He polices the people trying to escape it. He is more invested in the plantation staying calm than the master is. Then Malcolm draws the line straight to his own present. Watch him do it.
Just as the slave master in that day used Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check, the same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, to keep you and me in check, keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and nonviolent.
Modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, not to pick the cotton, to keep you and me in check, to keep us passive and peaceful and nonviolent. And then he hands you the metaphor that should be tattooed on the inside of your skull.
It's like when you go to the dentist and the man is going to take your tooth. You're going to fight him when he starts pulling. So they squirt some stuff in your jaw called Novocaine to make you think they're not doing anything to you. So you sit there, and because you got all that Novocaine in your jaw, you suffer peacefully. Blood running all down your jaw. And you don't know what's happening because someone has taught you to suffer peacefully.
That's the whole con. The dentist is about to rip your tooth out, something you would fight if you could feel it. So he numbs your jaw first. Now the blood is running down your face and you are smiling because somebody taught you to suffer peacefully. The house Negro's job is the Novocaine. Now, Malcolm said this mind didn't die with slavery. So let's do what Cypher does. Let's connect it to right now. And let's be specific because vague accusations are cowardly. Look at the entire industry of black conservative media personalities whose whole brand is telling white America what it wants to hear about black people. Take Brandon Tatum, and I'm not going to characterize him, I'm going to give you his documented public record in order with dates on it. 2017, he leaves the Tucson Police Department after 6 years and is hired as Director of Urban Engagement for Turning Point USA, a white-led conservative organization. That title is the job description. He is the outreach arm. October 2018, he co-founds Blexit with Candace Owens. Black Exit. The stated mission is to move black Americans out of the political coalition they built and toward the party writing the book bans. June 6, 2020. 12 days after George Floyd is killed in Minneapolis, while the country is still in the street, he posts this to his own account. Systemic oppression and racism is a bunch of BS. It's all to keep people in fear, angry, and divided. April 2021. Days after a jury convicts Derek Chauvin of murdering George Floyd, he goes on the BBC and says this: "Policing in America is not inherently racist. We do not live in a racist country." November 2021, he publishes a book called Beaten Black and Blue, Being a Black Cop in an America Under Siege. In his telling, the siege is the criticism of policing, not the conditions that produced it. And today, almost 4 million people subscribe to him on YouTube alone. Now run that record through Malcolm's test, not through insults, through Malcolm's framework. Whose house is he fighting to protect? When the masses of black people, the modern field, say the system is hurting us, who is the first one running with the bucket to put that fire out? Who shows up in front of the whitest possible audience in the same week the country is arguing about a murder to reassure them that America isn't racist, that the problem is black people ourselves, that the field is imagining the flames? That is not a man who happens to disagree on policy. Reasonable people disagree on policy all day long, and I'd have that argument with anybody. That is a man whose comfort, whose platform, whose entire paycheck flows out of proximity to a power structure, and who, exactly like Malcolm predicted, has fused that structure's interest with his own until he cannot tell them apart. He says we, the master's house, is his house now. And here's Malcolm's sharpest observation, updated for your feed. The power structure has always needed this figure. A white politician cannot tell black people that racism is fake and be believed. But put those exact same words in a black man's mouth. Better yet, a black ex-cop's mouth. And now, it isn't racism. Now it's just telling the truth. The house Negro was never valuable for his labor. He was valuable for his voice. His job is to make the plantation story sound like it's coming from the field. That's the Novocaine. That is the whole function. Now, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and pretend there is no other side. That's what they do. Cypher brings receipts, and that means being honest about the strongest version of the argument against me. Tatum and people like him would say this: I'm not protecting anybody's house. I'm preaching self-reliance. I'm telling my people to stop waiting on the government, build businesses, strengthen the family, take responsibility for your own life. That's not the house Negro. That's the opposite of it. That's freedom. And here's the thing you need to hear me say. Malcolm X also preached self-reliance. Do for self. Build your own institutions. Malcolm would have agreed that depending on people who do not love you is a trap. So we have to be careful here. Self-reliance is not the same thing as being a house Negro. Personal responsibility is not betrayal. If that's the whole test, then the test is garbage, and I'm just calling people names. So here's the actual line between the two. It's that one word again: we.
When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear these little Negroes talking about our government is in trouble. They say the government is in trouble. Imagine a Negro, our government. I even heard one say, our astronauts.
Malcolm preached self-reliance while pointing straight at the master's house and calling it what it was. He never once let the system off the hook to do it. Build for yourself and understand exactly who set this up against you. Both things at the same time. The modern figure does the opposite. He preaches personal responsibility as a way to excuse the house. He uses stop blaming the system to mean there is no system. He takes a real value, self-determination, the thing our grandparents actually lived, and turns it into a reason for the field to believe the fire it is standing in isn't real. That's the tell. Real self-reliance points the field toward freedom. The House Negro's version points the field back toward the plantation and calls it maturity. So why does this matter in 2026? Why dig up a 60-year-old speech? Because the machine Malcolm described is running at full power right now, and it is more sophisticated than it has ever been. In the plantation era, the master needed one house Negro on one plantation, one man, one field, one house. The damage had a fence around it. Today, one figure with a camera and almost 4 million subscribers can be the house Negro for an entire country at once. There is no fence. And the algorithm rewards it, because the single most profitable thing a blackface can do online is confirm what a hostile audience already wanted to believe. Meanwhile, the actual field, the working people, the ones catching hell in underfunded schools and over-policed blocks, they get told by somebody who looks like them that their suffering is a grievance narrative. That's the Novocaine getting stronger. That's the jaw going numb while the tooth comes out.
You got field Negroes in America today. I'm a field Negro. The masses are the field Negroes.
And listen close, because this is the part everybody misses. Malcolm's genius was not hating these men. He never said destroy the house Negro. He said recognize him. Learn to spot the we. Because once you can identify the mind, you stop being confused by the face. You stop asking, how could somebody black say that? And you start asking the only question that actually matters. Whose house is he running to save? That question is a superpower. It cuts through every panel, every podcast, every viral clip. Ask it every time. They didn't teach you this in school for a reason. A field full of people who can spot a house Negro on site is a field you cannot control anymore. That is exactly why Malcolm's framework got buried under the sanitized version of the 60s they hand you every February. So here's your homework. This week, watch the loudest black voices in your feed, left, right, all of it, including mine. And run every single one through Malcolm's test. Not do I like them, not are they charming, just this. When they say we, whose house are they talking about? Drop a name in the comments. Who passed, who failed, and why? Let's decode them together. If this made you think, subscribe and send it to somebody who needs to hear it. Because knowing your history isn't about the past. It's about never being fooled in the present. Malcolm gave us the key 60 years ago. I'm just here to help you turn the lock. Know your history. Until the next story. Peace. On May 4, 1962, a man stood in front of a room full of reporters in Los Angeles and accused the police department of murder. Not metaphorically, murder. The LAPD had raided a mosque, shot 7 unarmed men, and killed one of them, a man named Ronald Stokes, and the press was calling the victims the problem. That man at the podium had been born into terror, raised in foster homes, locked in a prison cell, and written off by a teacher who told him a black boy had no business dreaming. By the time the world knew his name, he had become the sharpest voice in America. They taught you he was the angry one, the dangerous one, the opposite of Dr. King. Let me decode who he actually was. I'm Malik, and this is Cypher with Malik, where we break down the Black American history they left out of your textbook. Today, the full story, birth to assassination, of El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, the man you know as Malcolm X. This isn't the cardboard cutout, not the soundbite they play for 15 seconds every February. We're going to walk through his entire life, because you can't understand the man at that podium without understanding the boy whose house got burned down, the hustler who almost died in the streets, and the prisoner who taught himself to think. If you learned something today, hit subscribe. That's how we keep telling these stories. Let's get into it. Malcolm Little was born May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska, the fourth of his father's children with Louise Little. And before Malcolm could even walk, his family was already a target. His father, Earl Little, was a Baptist preacher. But more than that, he was an organizer for Marcus Garvey's UNIA, the largest black self-determination movement in American history. Earl Little stood up in front of black folks and told them they had a right to own land, own businesses, and govern themselves. That kind of talk got you a visit from men in hoods. While Louise was pregnant with Malcolm, Klansmen rode up to their home in Omaha, smashed the windows, and told the family to leave town. They did. They moved to Lansing, Michigan, and the terror followed. In 1929, their home was burned to the ground. Malcolm was 4 years old. He would later say he remembered the fire, the family standing in their underclothes in the night, watching everything they owned burn, while the police and firemen just watched. Then, in 1931, Earl Little was found dead, his body on the streetcar tracks nearly cut in two. The authorities called it an accident. The family knew better. They believed he had been murdered by the same white supremacists who had been hunting him for years. And because the death was ruled a possible suicide, the larger life insurance policy refused to pay. So the violence didn't just take Malcolm's father, it took the family's survival. This is the part they leave out. Before Malcolm X said a single controversial word, America had already shown him exactly who it was. Louise Little was now a widow with 8 children in the middle of the Great Depression, a black woman fighting the state for every scrap. The welfare agents circled. They picked at the family, undermined her, and in 1939, they had Louise committed to a state mental institution where she would remain for around 25 years. The children were scattered into foster homes. The family was, in Malcolm's own words, destroyed by people who had decided they knew better. He saw, up close and as a child, how the state could dismantle a black family piece by piece and call it help. Now here's the thing they really don't tell you. Malcolm was brilliant, top of his class president in a nearly all-white school, and he had a dream. He wanted to be a lawyer. He told his English teacher that. And his teacher, a man he respected, looked at this gifted black kid and told him to be realistic. He said being a lawyer was no realistic goal for a black boy and suggested he become a carpenter instead. Malcolm never forgot it. He said that was the moment something in him changed. If the smartest path was closed no matter how good he was, why play their game at all? He dropped out. He drifted towards something else entirely. He went to Boston to live with his half-sister Ella, then to Harlem, and the kid who wanted to be a lawyer became a hustler they called Detroit Red for the reddish tint in his hair. Numbers running, drug dealing, burglary. He was living fast in a world that had told him there was no other lane. Malcolm never romanticized this period, and neither will I. He'd tell you himself. He was self-destructing, headed for an early grave or a long sentence. It was the sentence. In 1946, at age 20, Malcolm was arrested for a burglary ring in Boston and sentenced to 8 to 10 years in prison. The judge gave him extra time, many believe, because some of his accomplices were white women. For most people, that's where the story ends. A black kid swallowed by the system at 20, but for Malcolm, the cell is where the transformation began. In prison, Malcolm's family introduced him to the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a black Muslim movement led by Elijah Muhammad that preached black pride, self-discipline, economic independence, and a sharp rejection of white supremacy. For a man who had watched white terror burn his home, break his mother, and bury his father, the message landed like a key turning in a lock. But Malcolm didn't just convert. He got an education. He was frustrated that he couldn't put his thoughts into words. So he got a dictionary and he copied it, by hand. Page after page, word after word, until the vocabulary became his. He read history, philosophy, religion, devouring everything in the prison library, sometimes reading by the glow of a corridor light after lights out. He walked into that prison a broken hustler named Malcolm Little. He walked out in 1952 as a disciplined, razor-sharp minister, and he dropped the name Little, the surname slavery had given his family, and replaced it with a single letter, X. The unknown, the stolen name, the African identity that was taken and never returned. From now on, he was Malcolm X. Malcolm rose through the Nation of Islam like nothing they had ever seen. Elijah Muhammad sent him to build temples, Boston, Philadelphia, then Harlem's Temple No. 7. And wherever Malcolm went, the membership exploded. When he started, the nation had a few hundred members. Within years, it had tens of thousands, and Malcolm X was the reason. In 1958, he married Betty Sanders, Betty X, later Dr. Betty Shabazz, a strong, educated woman who would build a life and raise 6 daughters with him, often while he was traveling, organizing, and under constant surveillance. In 1959, a television documentary called The Hate That Hate Produced put the Nation of Islam in front of white America for the first time, and Malcolm became a national figure overnight. Reporters wanted him, colleges wanted him, because he said the things no one else would say on camera. He rejected nonviolence as a strategy when the other side wasn't being nonviolent. He called integration a distraction from real power. He told Black America to stop begging for acceptance and start building independence, dignity, and self-defense by any means necessary. And this is where that 1962 Los Angeles press conference comes in. When the LAPD raided the mosque and killed Ronald Stokes, Malcolm flew to LA, stood in front of the cameras, and named it police murder, state violence. He turned a local tragedy into a national indictment. That was the power he had. He could make America look directly at what it preferred to ignore. But the nation that built Malcolm also began to fear him. He was more famous than the organization itself, and tensions with the leadership were rising. Then, in November 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated. Asked about it, Malcolm said the killing was a case of the chickens coming home to roost, meaning the violence America exported had finally come home. The backlash was instant. Elijah Muhammad silenced him, barred him from speaking publicly for 90 days. But the deeper wound was personal. Malcolm had learned that Elijah Muhammad, the man he had revered as a moral teacher, had fathered multiple children in secret with young secretaries, violating the very code he preached. For Malcolm, the foundation cracked. In March 1964, Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam. He founded the Muslim Mosque, Incorporated, and then the Organization of Afro-American Unity, a secular pan-African movement to fight for Black human rights, and to connect the struggle in America to the struggle across the African diaspora. He was free. He was also now completely exposed. In April 1964, Malcolm made the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj, and it changed him. For the first time, he worshipped alongside Muslims of every color, white, black, brown, as equals, as brothers. He wrote home that he was rethinking some of his hardest positions on race. He had spent his life, with good reason, seeing white America as the enemy. In Mecca, he saw a vision of human brotherhood that didn't erase justice. It expanded who could be part of the fight. He took a new name, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. He traveled through Africa and the Middle East, meeting heads of state, building alliances, and developing a bold strategy to bring the United States before the United Nations and charge it with human rights violations against Black Americans. Not civil rights, human rights. He was internationalizing the struggle, and that made him more dangerous to the powerful than he had ever been. This is the Malcolm they never show you, not frozen in 1963, evolving, sharper, broader, more global, right up until the end. By early 1965, Malcolm knew he was a marked man. He was getting death threats constantly. He told interviewers plainly that he didn't expect to live much longer and that powerful forces wanted him gone. On February 14, 1965, his home in Queens was firebombed in the middle of the night. Betty and the children, and Betty was pregnant, barely escaped. No one was ever held accountable for it. 1 week later, February 21, 1965, the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. Malcolm stepped up to speak to a crowd of his supporters, his wife and daughters in the audience, and gunmen opened fire. He was shot more than a dozen times. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. He was 39 years old. 3 men were convicted, but here's what they didn't tell you for decades. In 2021, 2 of those men, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, were officially exonerated after an investigation revealed that the FBI and the NYPD had withheld evidence that could have cleared them. Both the Bureau and the police had been surveilling Malcolm for years, with informants inside his circle. The full truth of who ordered his death, and who let it happen, is still contested to this day. Later that same year, the autobiography of Malcolm X, written with Alex Haley, was published. It became one of the most important books of the 20th century, required reading for generations who needed to understand how a man rebuilds himself from nothing. Malcolm's ideas didn't die at the Audubon. They detonated. The Black Power movement, the Black Panther Party, the entire language of Black pride and self-determination in the late 60s and beyond, it all carries his fingerprints, by any means necessary. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. The dignity, the precision, the refusal to ask permission to be free. For years, they framed him as the dangerous counterpart to Dr. King, the threat. But the older that framing gets, the more obvious the truth becomes. Malcolm X wasn't preaching hate. He was demanding that Black people love themselves enough to defend themselves, build for themselves, and never beg for what was already theirs. That's not the angry one. That's the clear one. Malcolm Little, Detroit Red. Malcolm X, El Hajj, Malik El-Shabazz. One man, 4 names, and a life that refused to stay where America tried to put it. Black history is American history, and this is the part they left out. If this taught you something, subscribe, drop a comment with what surprised you most, and share it with somebody who only knows the 15-second version. Next time, we're decoding another story they tried to bury. I'm Malik, know your history.
For too long, others defined who we were. Now we're reclaiming our narrative.
Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, was one of the most influential and revolutionary figures in the fight for racial justice and Black empowerment. His early life was deeply marked by racism and violence. His father, Earl Little, a Baptist preacher, an outspoken supporter of Marcus Garvey's Black nationalist movement, was murdered by white supremacists, leaving his family in dire poverty. His mother, Louise Little, was later institutionalized, and Malcolm was placed in foster care. These traumatic experiences shaped his early understanding of systemic racism. As a young man, Malcolm moved to Boston and later Harlem, where he became involved in petty crime. In 1946, he was sentenced to prison for burglary. It was during this period of incarceration that Malcolm underwent a profound transformation. Immersing himself in books and self-education, he joined the Nation of Islam, NOI, a Black nationalist and religious organization. Rejecting his surname Little, which he considered a relic of slavery, he adopted X to signify his lost heritage. Upon his release in 1952, Malcolm quickly became one of the NOI's most charismatic leaders, known for his fiery oratory, sharp intellect, and uncompromising stance on Black independence, self-reliance, and resistance to white oppression. Malcolm's message of Black pride and his assertion that racism should be confronted by any means necessary resonated with many, but it also made him a controversial figure. In 1964, Malcolm left the NOI due to ideological and personal differences with his leader, Elijah Muhammad. He founded the Muslim Mosque, Inc. and the Organization of Afro-American Unity, OAAU, broadening his focus to include global human rights issues. That same year, Malcolm made a life-changing pilgrimage to Mecca, where he embraced Sunni Islam and witnessed racial unity among Muslims of all backgrounds. This experience reshaped his perspective, leading him to advocate for racial solidarity and global justice. Despite these changes, Malcolm remained a target for his bold ideas and growing influence. On February 21, 1965, he was assassinated while addressing a crowd at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, New York. He was only 39 years old. His death left a profound void in the civil rights movement, but his legacy endures as a symbol of resistance, empowerment, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Malcolm's autobiography, co-written with Alex Haley, remains a cornerstone of American literature and a source of inspiration for generations seeking equality and liberation. His life continues to illuminate the enduring struggles for racial and social justice worldwide. Until next time, peace. Y'all been arguing about Jay-Z for a week. Malcolm X ended this argument in 1963.
These leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community, and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
Puppets and clowns, set up over the black community, not by us, over us. Sit with that. Malcolm asked one question nobody's answered in 60 years. Name the white community that's led by its comedians, its singers, its ball players. You can't. Their entertainers entertain. Their leaders move money, land, and law. We're the only ones who got told those are the same job, and we said thank you. So now it's 2026, and my whole timeline is a Jay-Z hearing. What he said, who he sat with, what he should have done with his billion. Grown people giving a man 3 days of free labor, a man who does not know your name, does not answer to your block, and never once asked to lead you. He's a businessman. He's moving like one. The confusion is ours. And here's the part that should make you mad. While we were debating him, your school board met, your city council voted. Somebody decided your kid's curriculum, and it wasn't Jay-Z, and it wasn't you either. That's not an accident. That's the setup working exactly like Malcolm said. Keep your eyes on the stage, and you'll never look at the table. Enjoy the music. Then go take a seat that actually votes. They didn't teach you this in school. They were counting on that. Cypher with Malik. Until the next story, peace. Y'all been arguing about Jay-Z for a week. Malcolm X ended this argument in 1963.
These leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community, and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
Puppets and clowns, set up over the black community, not by us, over us. Sit with that for a second, because he said it 63 years ago, and your timeline proved him right this week. Here's what this video is not. This is not a video about whether Jay-Z is a good guy. I don't care. That's a distraction dressed up as a debate. This is a video about a mechanism, a machine that takes the most visible black people in America, the ones with the songs, the punchlines, the jump shots, and installs them in a chair labeled leader. A chair none of them ran for, a chair none of us voted on. Malcolm identified that machine in 1963. He named who built it, who funded it, and what it was for. And the machine is still running. It ran on your phone this week. Let me decode this for you. October 11, 1963, Berkeley, California. Malcolm X is 38 years old and still the national spokesman for the Nation of Islam. He is, by a wide margin, the most articulate threat in America. And the University of California had barred him from speaking on campus, on the grounds that the Nation of Islam was an authentic religious group. Same season, the California Supreme Court denied incarcerated Muslim converts access to religious instructors, on the grounds that the Nation of Islam was not an authentic religious group. Not a religion when you want to pray, a religion when you want to talk. He opened the day noting exactly that contradiction. Then he sat down with two men from Berkeley's sociology department, Professor John Leggett and a graduate student named J. Herman Blake, for a recorded session. Lecture 22, Sociology 1A. Now timing matters. Understand what year he is talking in. 6 weeks earlier, the March on Washington, 250,000 people on the Mall. 5 months earlier, Birmingham, fire hoses turned on children. 4 months earlier, Medgar Evers shot in his own driveway in Jackson, Mississippi. And in the middle of all that, in the middle of children being hosed and a man being murdered in front of his family, America was producing a very specific image of black leadership for television. Well-dressed, well-spoken, well-attended by celebrities. Malcolm looked at that image and asked the question nobody has answered in 63 years. Name the white community that's led by its comedians, its singers, its ball players. You can't. Because it doesn't exist. Because that is not how power organizes itself anywhere else in this country. Their entertainers entertain. Their leaders move money, land, and law. We're the only ones who got told those are the same job. And we said thank you. But here's the part that separates Malcolm from a guy just talking trash about celebrities. He didn't stop at these aren't leaders. He went and found out who put them there. 1 month after Berkeley, November 10, 1963, Malcolm stands in King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit and delivers what history now calls message to the grassroots. Here is what he told that room about the March on Washington. It was a circus, a performance that beat anything Hollywood could ever do. They controlled it so tight. They told those Negroes what time to hit town, how to come, where to stop, what signs to carry, what song to sing, what speech they could make, and what speech they couldn't make, and then told them to get out of town by sundown. That's his account, a grassroots plan to shut Washington down, intercepted, funded, staffed, scheduled, and scripted into a picnic. Leaders handed the microphone, not elected to it. Now Malcolm made a specific accusation, so let's check it. June 12, 1963, Medgar Evers is assassinated in Jackson, Mississippi. June 19, 1963, 7 days later, 96 corporations and foundations meet for a fundraising breakfast at the Carlisle Hotel in Manhattan. Not Harlem, the Carlisle, Upper East Side. They raise $800,000 in 1963 money. Where's it coming from? The Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, 93 other businesses and foundations, and the Taconic Foundation, run by a man named Stephen Currier. Few or none of these donors were black-owned. Currier's wife, Audrey, was a granddaughter of Andrew Mellon, heiress to one of the largest fortunes in the United States. Currier himself was the stepson of Edward Warburg of the Kuhn Loeb banking family. Out of that breakfast comes an organization, the Council for United Civil Rights Leadership. Its job, in its own framing, was to be a clearinghouse, to take the big contributions and divide them among the civil rights organizations. Everybody sits at one table, everybody gets a cut, everybody gets along. Read that again with clear eyes. One entity now controls the money going to the NAACP, to SCLC, to CORE, to SNCC, to the National Council of Negro Women, to the Legal Defense Fund. Groups that had been arguing with each other, groups whose disagreements were the movement's engine, SNCC's young radicals pulling one direction, the NAACP's institutionalists pulling the other. Centralize the funding and you don't have to win the argument, you just defund it. And that is exactly what happened. The council worked against tactics like civil disobedience and boycotts by controlling who got paid and by way of its own connections to the media establishment. It also helped arrange the August 1963 March on Washington with the Kennedy administration, with the prompting, by multiple accounts, of the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy. So when Malcolm called it a circus, he wasn't being cute. He was describing a march that got its money from a Manhattan hotel breakfast, its coordination from a philanthropist's council, and its guardrails from the White House. And then they filled the stage with entertainers and put it on television. Malcolm's word for the 6 organizational heads was the Big Six. His argument wasn't that they were fools, it was simpler and worse. When somebody else controls your funding, you don't get to be the one who decides what leadership means. They didn't teach you this in school. Now, Cypher does not do half-truths, so let me give you the whole thing. Malcolm named 2 people in that Berkeley session, Lena Horne and Dick Gregory, and both of those names deserve more than a soundbite. Lena Horne was blacklisted during the McCarthy era for her politics and her associations. She fought MGM over the roles she would take. She was on the ground at the March on Washington. She was not a woman who stayed quiet for a paycheck. Dick Gregory was arguably the single most physically committed celebrity of the entire era. He walked into Greenwood, Mississippi with SNCC for voter registration, when that was a way to get killed. He got arrested. He got beaten. He ran for president in 1968. He spent decades on hunger strikes for causes that made him no money at all. And here's the detail that should complicate this for you, because it complicated it for Malcolm. March 14th, 1964, 5 months after the Berkeley session, Malcolm X is photographed in Chester, Pennsylvania, planning demonstrations alongside Gloria Richardson, Lawrence Landry, Stanley Branch, and Dick Gregory. December 13th, 1964. Malcolm is on stage at the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem, sharing that stage with Dick Gregory. So what do we do with that? We read Malcolm correctly, is what we do. His critique was never entertainers are bad people. His critique was structural. It was about the chair, not the person sitting in it. It was about a country that will hand a black comedian a microphone and call him a spokesman, while it will not hand a black organizer a budget line. Gregory didn't appoint himself leader of Black America. The press did that, and Malcolm's fight was with the press. Which brings us to the machine that actually does the installing. December 13th, 1964. Audubon Ballroom, Harlem. Malcolm has been out of the Nation of Islam for 10 months. He has been to Mecca. He has been across Africa. His analysis has gotten sharper and more global, and he has about 10 weeks to live. Here is what he told that room about the newspapers. If you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. This is the press, an irresponsible press. It will make the criminal look like he's the victim and make the victim look like he's the criminal. Same speech, he draws a line I want you to hold on to. He separates what he calls Negro leaders, his word, his spelling it out, from Afro-American leaders, appointed versus accountable. And earlier in that same night, he tells a story on himself. He's on a plane. A white woman talks to him for 45 minutes, has a whole pleasant conversation, then finds out who he is, and tells him, "You're not what I was looking for." She wasn't looking for a man. She was looking for an image the press had built, horns, a monster. That's the same machine, running in the other direction. It builds one black man into a devil so you won't listen to him. It builds another black man into a leader so you'll listen to nothing else. Same machine, same operator, same purpose. So if it's not the singer and it's not the ball player, what is it? Malcolm answered that too. April 3rd, 1964. Cleveland, Ohio. Corey Methodist Church. The ballot or the bullet. The political philosophy of black nationalism only means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we should own and operate and control the economy of our own community. A ballot is like a bullet. You don't throw your ballots until you see a target, and if that target is not within your reach, keep your ballot in your pocket. Notice what he's describing. It's not glamorous. It's the ballot, it's the budget, it's who owns the building, it's who runs the school, it's who gets the contract. Entertainers entertain. Leaders move money, land, and law. That is the whole distinction. It was the whole distinction in 1963, and it is the whole distinction right now. So now it's 2026, and my entire timeline is a Jay-Z hearing. What he said, who he sat with, what he should have done with his billion. Grown people giving a man 3 days of free labor, a man who does not know your name, does not answer to your block, and never once asks to lead you. He's a businessman. He's moving like one. The confusion is ours. And here's the part that should make you mad. While we were debating him, your school board met. Your city council voted on a budget. Somebody sat in a room and made a decision about what your kid will and will not be taught about this exact history, the March on Washington, Malcolm, all of it. And it wasn't Jay-Z, and it wasn't you either. That's not an accident. That is the setup working exactly the way Malcolm described it. Keep your eyes on the stage, and you will never once look at the table. The Council for United Civil Rights Leadership met in a hotel on the Upper East Side and decided what the movement could and couldn't do, and most black people in America never heard the name Stephen Currier in their lives. Your school board meets on a Tuesday. It's public, it's on the calendar, anybody can speak. One of those rooms you couldn't get into, the other one you just didn't go to. Enjoy the music, I do, then go take a seat that actually votes. Look up your school board meeting date. Look up your city council district. Look up who represents you and what they voted on last month. It takes 11 minutes. I timed it. That's not activism. That's just knowing the difference between a stage and a table. Malcolm told us in 1963, we've had 63 years. They didn't teach you this in school. They were counting on that. Cipher with Malik. Until the next story, peace. Almost 4 million people listen to a man Malcolm X warned you about 60 years ago.
There was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro.
The house Negro lived close to power, ate a little better, and if that house caught fire, he'd fight harder than the master to put it out.
The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro said, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself.
Now the modern version, a former cop hired by a conservative machine as its director of urban engagement, co-founded Blexit, then told the BBC that America is not a racist country. They never needed his labor. They needed his voice. That's Novocaine, so you smile while they pull the tooth. Run it on everybody, me included. When they say we, whose house are they saving? Until the next story. Peace.
If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, that house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was that house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. And that's what we call him today, because we still got some house niggers running around here.
We're not brutalized because we're Methodist. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America, where your mother is being raped and you're not supposed to be emotional. Your women, please, your women can't walk the street without some cracker putting his hands on her, and you're not supposed to be emotional. If you say that you're fed up, if you teach the Negro, they don't even know their own name. Why? Because he took it away from them. Please. 20 million black people don't even know their own language. Why? Because he took it away from them. 20 million black people who don't even know the history of their ancestors. Why? Because he took it away from them. And if you try and tell them how thoroughly and completely they've been robbed, he says you're teaching hate. That's something to think about. Today you are coming out of college. You're coming out of the leading university.
Hey folks, and today I want to talk about something Malcolm X said that still rings true. Malcolm X once said that Republicans and Democrats are just two wings of the same bird. Think about that for a moment. No matter which way this bird flies, it's still heading in the same direction away from real change for our communities. Now, Malcolm X saw firsthand the complexities of power and oppression in America. His experiences made him realize that the fight for black liberation in America was deeply connected to broader struggles for justice. His vision was to build a unified front for black Americans through the organization of Afro-American unity. Unfortunately, his assassination in 1965 cut short his ambitious plans. But his vision of solidarity still inspires many today. Fast forward to now, and Michael Sawyer, a scholar, argues that Malcolm X's philosophy is still relevant for understanding modern struggles, whether it's the ongoing conflict in Gaza or other movements for justice. Malcolm X's distinction between self-defense and violence offers valuable insights. He believed in resisting oppression without being unjustly labeled as aggressive. Sawyer also critiques the deeply ingrained nature of white supremacy. He calls for a radical transformation of society to dismantle it. By examining current events through the lens of Malcolm X's teachings, we can better understand and challenge systemic injustice. Malcolm X's legacy has evolved over the years. Once seen as a polarizing figure, he's now a widely respected icon. His message of self-determination, racial pride, and social justice resonates with contemporary movements. Yet his humor and compassion often remain overlooked. So when Malcolm X said that Republicans and Democrats are just two wings of the same bird, he was pointing out a critical truth. Both parties might talk differently, but their actions show they're serving the same interests, not ours. The real question is, are we going to keep supporting a system that's designed to keep us in the same place? Or are we ready to demand something different? Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, stay informed and stay empowered. Some of y'all are going to hate this video. Good, because somebody has to say it. Democrats don't own black people. Republicans don't own black people. And if your entire political identity is defending people who don't know your name, don't care about your neighborhood, and only show up every 4 years asking for your vote, then Malcolm X wasn't talking about them. He was talking about you. We've turned politics into sports. Red jerseys versus blue jerseys. Democrats can bomb countries, lie to voters, take corporate money, and people make excuses. Republicans can do the same thing, and their supporters twist themselves into knots defending it. Nobody asks, did my life improve? They ask, did my team win? And that's insanity. Because politicians aren't your family. They're employees. And Americans have developed the strange habit of worshiping their employees. Malcolm X said, "Black people were being used as a political football." 60 years later, tell me what's changed. Every election, democracy is on the line. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Vote like your life depends on it. Then after Election Day, the schools are still failing. The neighborhoods still lack investment. Healthcare is still unaffordable. Wages still lag behind inflation. Police brutality debates continue. Housing costs rise. Student debt remains. But somehow, you're supposed to be excited about another campaign slogan. Some people don't vote because they're lazy, but a lot of people don't vote because they've noticed something. The people asking for their votes keep making promises they never intend to keep. Then those same politicians blame the voters, not themselves. The arrogance is incredible. Imagine failing at your job for decades and then accusing your customers of being the problem. Leadership requires sacrifice. Most politicians are fundraisers with microphones. Their real skill isn't changing the country, it's surviving the next primary. Their job is re-election. That's it. Everything else comes second. Donors, polling, consultants, party leadership, special interests, public relations. You come in somewhere near the bottom of the list. And if you don't believe that, ask yourself, why do politicians suddenly discover you're suffering every election season? You cannot complain about corruption while rewarding it. You cannot scream about incompetence while re-electing incompetence. You cannot say politicians don't listen while telling them, don't worry, you already have my vote. That's not civic engagement. That's political Stockholm syndrome. You're defending people who wouldn't cross the street to help you if there wasn't a camera nearby. I don't think Malcolm X wanted blind loyalty to any party. I think he wanted politically mature people willing to say, you work for me, earn my vote, every single time. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. If a politician delivers, support them. If they fail, replace them. Without guilt, without excuses, without emotional attachment. If this video offended you because I criticized the party you support, ask yourself why. Why are you more protective of politicians than the people they're supposed to serve? Why is criticizing elected officials treated like betrayal? Why have we normalized being disappointed by the same people over and over again? Malcolm X warned us what happens when people mistake political theater for liberation. Maybe the real controversy isn't what he said. Maybe it's that too many of us proved him right. Before you type in the comments, remember, if your politician can't be criticized, you're not participating in democracy, you're participating in a cult. This is Cypher with Malik. Decode everything, even the people asking for your vote. Peace. Peace, family. I want to ask you a question. What if COINTELPRO never really disappeared? What if it simply evolved? What if the greatest threat to Black progress today isn't someone kicking down our doors? It's someone keeping us fighting each other. Today, we're divided over everything. Are we African? Are we indigenous? Are we Hebrew Israelites? Are we Moors? Are we foundational Black Americans? Are we ADOS? Are we Democrats? Are we Republicans? Every day, it's another debate, another live stream, another argument, another label. And while we're arguing, who's building, who's buying land, who's opening schools, who's starting businesses, who's creating banks, who's teaching our children, who's creating institutions that will still exist 50 years from now, that's the conversation we should be having. Most people think COINTELPRO was only about surveillance. It wasn't. The FBI's own documents show one of its goals was to prevent unity among Black organizations, prevent coalition building, and prevent the rise of Black leadership. Divide, distrust, confusion, conflict. Because history teaches one thing: a united people are much harder to control than a divided people. Whether today's division is intentional, amplified by algorithms, or simply fueled by outrage, the result can be the same. We spend more time debating labels than building institutions. Malcolm X said, if you aren't careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Today, replace newspapers with social media. Replace headlines with algorithms. The warning still applies. Malcolm also reminded us, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Notice what Malcolm emphasized: education, preparation, self-determination, not endless arguments over identity. If you believe you're African, study it. If you believe you're indigenous, study it. If you believe you're a Hebrew Israelite, study it. If you believe you're descended from the Moors, study it. Research your history. Read the evidence. Challenge your assumptions. Learn. Knowledge is never the enemy. But here's my question. When the debate is over, what have we built? Did another child learn to read? Did another family buy land? Did another business open? Did another scholarship get funded? Or did another comment section win? Then comes politics. Every election cycle, we're told to pick a side. Democrat, Republican, left, right, as if choosing a political party automatically creates political power. Malcolm X criticized blind loyalty to political parties and urged Black people to think independently. Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad carried that same challenge, warning Black communities not to mistake party loyalty for liberation. The point wasn't that voting doesn't matter. The point was this: never confuse party membership with power. The question isn't, what party are you in? The question is, what are we building? Because no political party can replace a strong family. No political party can replace community ownership. No political party can replace institutions built by the people themselves. James Baldwin said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Let's face something. Division has become profitable. People gain followers by creating enemies. People gain views by creating outrage. People make money convincing us another Black person is our biggest problem. Everyone wants followers. Very few want builders. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools." That doesn't mean we all have to agree. It means disagreement cannot become destruction. Our ancestors argued, but they also organized. They built churches, schools, businesses, mutual aid societies, newspapers, colleges, communities. They understood something we've forgotten. Institutions outlast arguments. Fred Hampton didn't become dangerous because of what he said. He became dangerous because of what he built. Free breakfast programs, health clinics, political education, community organizing, coalitions. He reminded us, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Because revolutions aren't built on personalities. They're built on people working together. Too often, when we talk about Black leadership, we overlook the voices of Black women who gave us some of the clearest instructions for moving forward. Fannie Lou Hamer once said, "You can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap." Think about that. Prayer has its place. Faith has its place. But faith without action builds nothing. No school has ever been built by prayer alone. No business has ever been created by prayer alone. No community has ever become stronger by prayer alone. At some point, we have to get up, organize, build, do the work. Then Zora Neale Hurston gave us another warning. If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Speaking the truth matters. Telling our history matters. Exposing injustice matters. But after we tell the truth, we have to organize around the truth. Truth without action becomes another speech. History without institutions becomes another debate. Then Hurston leaves us with a challenge. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. Maybe we've spent enough years asking who we are. Maybe it's time to become the generation that answers by what we build. Let's answer with businesses. Let's answer with schools. Let's answer with land ownership. Let's answer with financial literacy. Let's answer with economic cooperation. Let's answer with institutions our grandchildren will inherit. Imagine if every church, every mosque, every Hebrew Israelite congregation, every Moorish organization, every Pan-African organization, every fraternity, every sorority, every civic organization spent just as much energy building businesses, buying farmland, funding scholarships, supporting Black schools, and teaching financial literacy as we spend debating who's historically right. Imagine where we'd be. History matters. Identity matters. Truth matters. But none of those things should stop us from building together. The greatest question isn't who were our ancestors. The greatest question is, what will our descendants inherit? Another debate, another live stream, another viral argument, or land, businesses, books, schools, institutions, economic power. Unity doesn't require uniformity. We don't all have to believe exactly the same thing, but we do have to decide whether we're going to spend our lives arguing or building, because history remembers builders, not just debaters. As Malcolm X reminded us, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Let's prepare, let's organize, let's build, because history should be a bridge, not a battlefield. If every conversation about our past leaves us weaker in the present, we've missed the lesson. The goal isn't to win arguments about who we were. The goal is to build a future worthy of who we can become. This is Cypher with MLK, where we decode culture, history, and truth. Peace. In January 1965, Malcolm X sat down on Canadian television. Calm, measured, no anger in his voice. He had just come back from Mecca, a changed man, and he carried a new idea that reframed the entire struggle. 3 weeks later, he was dead. This is the strategy he laid out that night on live television, and it may be the reason they killed him. I'm Malik, and this is Cypher with Malik, where we break down the Black American history they left out of your textbook. Today, the interview Malcolm gave weeks before his assassination, and the single distinction inside it that terrified Washington. Understand this first. The man on that broadcast was not the Nation of Islam Malcolm. He had broken with Elijah Muhammad. He had made the pilgrimage to Mecca, and he had come home thinking past America entirely. To understand the interview, you have to understand where he was standing. He wasn't preaching separation anymore. He was building something new. And he was no longer asking one nation for permission. He was thinking about the whole world. He told the panel the story plainly. He had tried to reach Mecca on his own and hit a wall. He wasn't born a Muslim. He didn't speak Arabic, but he had become known. I became a guest of the state, a guest of Prince Faisal. They brought him before the Hajj Committee, the court that examines your belief before you're allowed into Mecca. He passed, and what he saw there rearranged how he thought about race itself. Pilgrims of every color, worshiping as equals. The problem, he realized, was never skin, it was power. Back home, he built a vehicle for the new thinking, not a mosque, an organization. We formed a group known as the Organization of Afro-American Unity. It's non-religious. Any Negro can belong to it. The goal, in his own words, was to guarantee respect and recognition of the 22 million Black Americans as human beings. He was widening the door, not narrowing it. And then he said the thing that made the powerful nervous. He said the problem of the Black man in America was beyond America's ability to solve. It's a human problem, not an American problem or a Negro problem. So it should be taken out of the jurisdiction of the United States courts and taken into the United Nations, the same way the world was already hearing the cases of South Africa and Angola. Our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Read that again. Civil rights is a domestic matter. America grades its own paper. Human rights is a world matter, and it puts America in the dock before every other nation on earth. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen, we're denied the right to be a human being. The host thanked him for his sincerity and closed the show, polite television. But Malcolm had just handed the movement a strategy that did not depend on America's goodwill. Weeks later, on February 21, 1965, he was assassinated in Harlem. We can't hand you a single motive. But the man on that broadcast was no longer asking for a seat at America's table. He was preparing to try America in front of the world. Civil rights asks, human rights charges. 60 years later, that distinction still decides who has to beg and who gets to hold power accountable. If this reframed anything for you, sit with it. Then come decode the next one with me. Subscribe, and I'll see you there. "3 weeks before they killed him, Malcolm X went on live television and drew one line that terrified Washington. And then he said the thing that made the powerful nervous. He said, the problem of the black man in America was beyond America's ability to solve. Our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Read that again. Civil rights is a domestic matter. America grades its own paper. Human rights is a world matter, and it puts America in the dock before every other nation on earth. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen, we're denied the right to be a human being. Civil rights asks, human rights charges. 60 years later, that distinction still decides who has to beg and who gets to hold power accountable.